All right, so today I'm going to work on a spell book for Winifred Sanderson. Now, I've got this one here made that I've had for a few years, and it's pretty good, but it's just way too heavy. It's an actual book, and these little snake details, you can see they're really thick, and the snake over here on the side, they're just really, really thick, and even they're on the back, and you can just see how that does. And for the new one, I'm going to make them a lot thinner and just completely different from this. Now these, I molded these out of clay, um, and I've got the little piece for the eye that's made out of clay, and of course this over here is all clay, and then the fingers on the side are actually a rubber hand that I had, and I just cut those fingers off of that hand, and you can see the paint has sort of come off of that a little bit through the years because we've just used it so much. And here's the back of it. Now the back's done the same, but this little hand here is a lot of people will use like a skeleton hand, like a human hand, but it really had something that looked really similar to what I've made here. Because when I was researching what the book looked like when I first made this one, I wanted to make sure I got it really close. And this one looks pretty good. Other than how thick these are way too fat, but it still looks pretty cool. Um, and then, like I said, it's made from a real book. It's really, really heavy, and the eye is brown. I don't think he had a brown eye, but I don't really care about that. And then, of course, this is where Binks and Billy Butcherson signed it. I've got some stickers in here. Um, but today, the one I'm going to work on is I'm going to work with these boxes. Like I found these book boxes. I'm going to move this out of the way real quick. Um, Now, these are boxes you can get at a craft store, and I've got 3 of these. I've got different sizes, and there was a third one. I don't know where I've got that, but I'm not going to use it anyway, so it don't really matter. But this one's really big. It's pretty cool, but I'm wanting to make this into a Harry Potter monster book, so that's going to be used later for that. But the one I'm going to use for Winifred's book is this one, and I'm not going to go real fancy with this. I'm just going to do a much more simple version of her spell book. Like, I'm not going to make those fingers on the side, but this one has these little raised parts here that will kind of make up for those fingers. So that's already kind of there. And I am going to make the snakes and the eye and everything, but it's going to be completely different from how I did the first one. Now let me get the first one back out here. This one is, now in an earlier video that I did, I was talking about the way I do my books, or the way I did this one is completely different from how people normally make them. Usually people will just make a little raised area where they want their stitches to be, and then they'll just put little fake stitches across here using wire or string. But my stitches are real. Like when I covered the book, I've covered this in leather, and I just drew my marks on here where I wanted the stitches to be. And then I just cut that mark. I just cut it into those pieces, and it made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. And then I just went and actually stitched them back together, just like, it would have really been if she was making this out of human skin. Um, but that's the big difference in how I've done it from how everybody else does it. But today, with this one, I am going to do it like everybody else. I'm just going to make like a fake stitches where I'm just going to use individual pieces of string or wire to create these little stitches. But yeah, on this one, it's I just I laid out the leather, cut it into the size I needed, and then drew those lines, and then just cut them, and then stitched it back by hand. So I like that idea, and I might break down and do that with this one. I haven't really even thought that far into it yet, but I've got these little papers, and this one's going to be so much better because it's lightweight. I mean, I can just lift that with 2 fingers, and it's going to be so much better for when we're trying to use this as a prop. But I've got these little rubber snakes, and I've cut the tip of the tail off, and I've cut the heads off of them because I'm going to use the heads and the tip of the tail, but I'm not going to use these parts of the body, those middle parts. But we'll get to that part later. And then I've just printed out 2 of the potions, or the curse, the cat spell, and the life potion. I'm just going to glue those in here like that later when I get it done. But I think I got this at a thrift shop, actually. $3.99. Goodwill. I've decided to go ahead and just kind of do it like I do with the leather, because, I was wanting to make mine different from how, like I've said, other people have done. And I'm going to basically do like I was trying to explain with that leather, but instead of using leather, I'm going to use this cotton fabric. And what I did with the fabric is I laid it down. You want to make sure you have enough to make basically a book cover. You just want to lay it down here and trace it out, but you want to leave enough, down here at the bottom, all the way around it, to where you can fold it under. Like, you just want to have enough to flip up when at the end you want to wrap it. I'm not sure if I'm explaining. I gotta get back in the groove of trying to do videos. But so let's pretend this is our piece of cloth. Here later we're going to want to fold it over the edges. So you just want to get over here and trace it out. You can trace it exactly the same size, but just remember to cut it a little bit bigger. So let me get this book traced out and then cut this fabric, and then I'll come back to that next step. All right, so I've traced around the back of the book, and then you want to raise it over on its side, trace that side part, do all 4 sides. And I don't know how this, and then go ahead and flip it. Try not to move it, but just try to perfectly flip it over to the next side and trace that. But I don't know how this is going to work with a cotton fabric. I'm just hoping this is going to work. I've seen a lot of people in the comments of my videos saying trust the process, and I get kind of tickled, because it's like we're definitely having to trust the process, because I'm doing this different from the last one, and I'm just hoping this is going to work out. So anyway, I don't know if that line really shows up. Oh gosh, my camera is doing that crazy focus thing. I hate it when it's trying to focus. It just makes the camera kind of jumpy. But anyway, I'm going to cut out, and just remember, leave a little, enough around there to fold it later. All right, so here is my little piece cut out, and it should be about the same size. And of course it's a little bit bigger because, leaving that little edge on there to fold later. But where I've got that line drawn on, I'm just going to kind of lay it up here where it needs to be. And then looking at a picture of the original book, you want to just draw kind of where you want your stitches to go. So I'm just going to take my pencil and then just draw where I want the stitches to be. All right, so I've got those lines drawn on where I want those, and it looks like a mess. And I've even got lines on here that I don't want there, so I've put a little X over those so I'll know not to cut those lines. But the ones I do want to cut, I'm just going to cut them. So I feel like I'm rushing this. Now you just want to go. How do I need to explain this? Okay. Um, yeah, just cut on the lines that you just made that you want. Um, and cut them all the way. Because it's going to be kind of like a puzzle here in a second. Oh, and another reason why it's important to leave extra on the edges is because when you sew this back together, it's going to shrink that front part. Well, actually, the back's going to have it too. But I'm actually going to cheat on this and not even really decorate the back. Now you can go and do the back also, but this is just for a simple little Halloween prop that people aren't really going to handle. Um, so I'm not going to go too crazy, but you can take the same steps that I'm going to be doing to the front and do it to the back. But anyway, I'm just going to keep cutting these little parts out. All right, so now that all the parts are cut out, you're just going to make sure you know what part goes where. So just like I said, it's kind of like a puzzle. You just have to put them back together. All right, now you're just going to take and you're just going to hand stitch, all the way around here to create your stitches. And then you're basically going to have what we started with, only it's sewn together. And then you're just going to, of course, just glue that down to the book. And it's really simple to do that. And honestly, doing it this way, just cutting it into pieces and then sewing it back, makes those stitches a lot easier than how most people do it, where they just go put individual little stitches on there with like little pieces of string. And also, you won't ever have to worry about those individual little strings coming off or coming unglued or whatever, because it's going to be real stitches. So I've got the parts laid out, and I was going to just try to show a little bit about how to sew them together. Now I'm just using embroidery thread, and I've started with the end of it coming underneath the fabric. So I came up through there and across, and then back up, and then just go, just zigzag it side to side, just drawing those pieces together. Anyway, I'm just going to keep sewing these parts together. And this uh, fabric is a lot easier than the leather. And of course, like I've done in some of my little projects before, I can paint over this with the Mod Podge and it'll make it a little glossy and look a little more like leather or like a little skin tone. So I like using this cotton fabric better than the leather. But the leather has a nice texture to it. Some of that has little pores in it. Even the fake leather has a nice texture to it. And you want to watch when you're pulling this tight, because you don't want to mess up your shape. You want to try to keep them together and keep it that shape so that it'll still fit your book when you go to laying this on your book. All right, so here is the finished thing with the stitches. And then, of course, I'm just going to glue this to the book. Just make sure you pull it sort of tight and flat. And that's how the front looks. This is how the back looks. And again, if you're wanting to go real detailed, you want to do it on this side also. But I'm not going to really do a lot of detail on the back, so I'm just going to go ahead and just do the front. But so now I guess I'll either use tacky glue or Mod Podge. I'm just going to have to see what kind of glues I've got. But I'm just going to glue this down and fold those edges around. And then I'll start thinking of what the next step's got to be. Because again, I'm not going to use clay. I'm going to use different stuff for the snakes. All right, so I've got tacky glue. I didn't know if I'd have enough or not, but I've got tacky glue, and I'm just going to really saturate the front. And I'm using this candy box to smear this because I thought it would do good to get it pretty even. And then just get it all smeared out pretty even and just lay it on there. And those marks that we put on there with the pencil, that'll kind of help figure out where that needs to be. But that looks really, really good. I mean, that's just so cool. You just want to flatten it out and just start gluing it all the way around. And here's what it looks like. So far, it's looking really good. I've just folded those little edges under and glued those down, but I'm going to go ahead and just paint a layer of Mod Podge, but I'm going to mix that with the color of paint that I want my base color to be. So I'm just going to look at the reference pictures and see what color he is and paint him, but mix that paint with the Mod Podge, and that'll give me that kind of glossy texture that I want. Okay, so for the little decorations, those little snake decorations, I've cut out these little corner pieces from this foamy. This is just like a little foam sheet. And I've just cut out these little corner medallions from that and kind of come up with this. And then I took that little plastic snake head, and this is the bottom. I'm not going to show the top yet because I want to explain what I've done. But I glued that little snake head out here. And then I thought the snake body, I could make it out of like a string or a roll or little bit of hot glue. I don't know what you would call it, like a little snake of hot glue. And so what I came up with the little hot glue snake body was this. Not exactly the perfect little snake body. I don't know what kind of a snake body that is. It definitely doesn't look like a snake curled up. So I've had to like figure something else out. And what I came up with was a rope. So I got me a little rope that's sort of the same size of the little snake. And this looks way better. Thank goodness I had that rope because that worked out perfect. So cut out the little medallion, put the little snake head on it, and then make the little body from the rope. And the reason I didn't use the original snake body is because it was a harder plastic and you can't really shape it and fix it the way it needs to be. So that's why the rope came into play. So after that, I took Mod Podge, and it's mixed with my black paint. So anyways, took the Mod Podge and painted the entire thing. And then I laid like a little square of toilet paper over that just to sort of give it like a texture, I guess. If you can sort of tell, this is just a smooth foam, and then this has more of a texture to it. And it also just kind of made the body look like it's part of that, like it's been molded or made into one piece. So just Mod Podging a piece of toilet paper on there is what gave me this look. And then I went over the top of that with another layer of the Mod Podge. But you've got to be real careful because the more you brush it, it starts to want to lift up that toilet paper. So you just want to kind of quickly do it. And you want to use quite a bit of Mod Podge, almost drowned it in the Mod Podge, because the wetter it is, the easier it is to brush it around and get it how you want it. But you just want to make sure that toilet paper sticks in all the little crevices. But it's turned out really good. I love how that looks. And so now I've just got to Mod Podge and toilet paper this one, let them dry, and then I will paint those silver. And for the longer piece, it goes up the side. I kind of did that the same way, but I used the foam piece, the little foamy, for that. And I used the head of the snake, and I used the tip of his tail. But the body in between, down through here, now that is hot glue. It was easy to do a hot glue body for this one because it's just kind of a wiggly little line, and it kind of held its shape and looks really good. But these, it was just too hard to try to get this shape. So the rope worked out way better for this. And then the hot glue worked out really good for that. Or you could even use a piece of rope here also. But anyway, that's how I've come up with the decorations. So I just got to finish this one and then paint them silver. Oh, and of course, I'm forgetting one of the main things. The eyeball. This is also the foam board. And I've got a piece of yellow poster board glued to the back of it because I needed a place to glue the eyeball. I think this is just like a doll eye. And of course, it's got Mod Podged over, but I'm going to scratch that away when I'm done with it. But I'm just going to go ahead and get it painted up and stuff, and then I'll clean the eye up later. Okay, so I've just took a blade and I'm just going around the eye to try to cut that away, because I put that toilet paper and Mod Podge, so I'm just trying to go deep enough to cut that away from there, but it's not really coming off too good. I mean, it will, but I just got to mess with it. I actually don't know if I want to take all that off. I kind of like that right there because it looks kind of like part of the eyelid. I think that looks kind of cool. And let that be sort of like an eyelid. But also, I'm going to put some, like a fake eyelash on here, because I don't even have a fake eyelash on my other one. And if you look at it real good in the movie, he does have eyelashes. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit. And then, of course, in here, it has to be painted the same color as the rest of the book. And then the circle around here, or the oval, will be silver. And then I'll have to find my eyelashes. All right, so I've got this one started. I actually covered it in the Mod Podge and then put the little layer of toilet paper on it, and I'm just trying to brush it on. And as you get it really, really wet, you can, I should have done this part, but you can pull that toilet paper down and it'll pull away, like it'll stick to the parts where the Mod Podge is, but you can pull all that excess away from it, and just kind of round those edges down on around the edge of this. And you can see that it's got quite a bit on there, but you just want to poke around on it and just get it down in those little crevices and stuff. But like I was saying, you don't want to keep doing this too much or you'll just start pulling that away. But I'm just trying to quickly get those edges turned around or turned under. All right, so here are all these little parts that I've painted silver. They look really good. And I love the texture on this. It almost looks like snake skin. And once I get them glued to the book, I'm going to age it all. But I'm going to wait till I get them on there and do it all at the same time. But these have turned out really good. I'm really excited about these. I went around it with like a darker brown paint. You can just sort of maybe tell that. I did that just to kind of blend the that edge that I folded under. I just wanted to kind of blend it in, make it look a little bit better. And then in here, I just kind of smeared some of that darker paint in here. I'm okay with how this looks. I'm just going to leave it like it is and glue those pages in here. But if you can sort of tell, there's an oval on the front that I did not notice before. Now, as the glue dried, that really has stood out, and I don't really know what to do about that. It's just going to have to be there. And then there's some sort of little bubble thing happening here, but I kind of just don't even care. I mean, that's fine. I'll deal with it. But anyway, I'm going to glue these parts down where they go. And then we'll age it. And I'm just going to brush over some of the watered down black paint. And I'm not going to get it too wet because I don't want to like warp the book or anything, because it is just cardboard. So I'm just going to glue all this in place. And there is a detail like where the snakes are biting into the book. I think they're supposed to be sort of biting into it, and it causes these little wrinkles in the skin. So I'm going to try to just draw some little marks on here to sort of resemble how it looks in the movie. Now this is how it looks, and what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to highlight with just a small paintbrush these stitches before I age it. I'm going to highlight each one of those. It won't take too long. And then I'm going to do those little marks here like I was saying. And I'll try to post like a reference picture here. Maybe those little marks will show up. But I will do these little details and then get it aged. And then can't forget that little jewel. All right, so to age this up a little bit, I'm just taking a little bit of black paint, kind of like a dry brush, and I'm just going to get down in these corners a little bit, just around the stuff. And if it's too much, I'm just going to kind of bleed it out or fan it out a little bit. I can even get some water on here. And it's good that I'm going over a surface that's been done with the Mod Podge, because it helps me, blend it a little bit. But I'm just going to go around the edges of everything just to make it look like it's a little more raised or something. I don't know, just some more detail. But and then after I get this done, I'm going to go over the entire thing with a little bit of the black. But I'm not going to do too heavy because I don't want to darken it too much. All right, so we are completely finished now with the new one, and we're just going to have the old one sitting here. And there's really cool things about this. Again, it's done on the front and the back. It's got that little strap on the side, which I probably could or should at least add that much to the new one, even though I don't do the back of it. And the fingers. So this one's cool. I love it. I love that it's been handled by some of the actual cast members. And one thing that I'm noticing on this one, it never really stood out to me, but this one does not have eyelashes. And after seeing the new one, this one looks so funky, and I might actually add some little eyelashes to that. But I'm so excited about the new one. And here is how that looks. Oh my gosh, I think that just turned out so good, which I kind of figured it would because I'd already made this. And I just love it. And I feel like this is a pretty easy thing to make. I mean, it don't look easy, but it is. I mean, it's just made out of, again, we just watched it, strips of foam, rope, plastic snakes, cotton fabric, and some acrylic paint. I mean, it was just super easy. So hopefully, oh yeah, and then the inside, I've glued these pages in, and there's a couple of wrinkles up here, but that was already in there from the this velvety stuff that's in there. It kind of wrinkled up earlier, but I did these with a glue stick, like this kind of a glue stick, because when you use like this, it doesn't wrinkle paper. So if you're gluing down paper, these work really good for that, because they don't put like wavy specks in your paper. No, I mean, if you use too much, I guess it could, but that does really good on paper. So anyways, I've got the cat potion, or the little cat curse, and the life potion, and I could even store stuff in this, of course, and I love it. I love that it's lightweight, and it's still a little bit wet. It'll look a little different tomorrow when it's dry, but I'm okay with the back not being done. I love how the edges look. It looks like real pages. You can see how easily I'm picking that up. This one, you like break your back trying to lift it. I mean, that's like going to the gym, getting a workout. But that's really heavy. And the main reason I made this one, well, two reasons. I wanted to just show how I make mine. And the second reason is it's a lot easier for when we're dressed up, instead of carrying this safe around with us. And another thing I did, if it sort of shows up, I took some red, I darkened some red paint and went in between where that little crack is, or that little seam, just to make it look like sort of a raw uh, cut wound or something. I just wanted to give it some red in there. So I've just, highlighted some stuff and put those little details in there. But I'm really excited. So I'll do a little video or some pictures to show how this will look at the party. Well, before I go, I'm going to see, oh yeah, you can see the eyelashes on there. And I just really love that part, because when I was looking at the real book, you could tell that they have the eyelashes. So I just wanted to get a close up of that before I move on to the picture part.